Goa Therapy, and I post videos once a month sharing with you some of the interesting facts about human mind. This place is called as the Santistem Fort, which is located in a quaint village called as Santistem, also called as Juem, and it's around 22 kilometers from Panji. This fort was built in the year 1668, and it's also called as the Fort of St. Francis Xavier. And as far as you can stretch your sight, the view over here is really gorgeous, particularly in monsoons. On one side you see the lush green fields, and on the other side you see the river, which is adorned with iron ore barges, and also there is a bridge on one side. Great. Now coming back to a point, in the last video we discussed that what is really meant by a healthy mind, a distressed mind and a disordered mind. We also discussed that how a disturbed mind leads to a disturbed body. But today I am going to take it a little further and tell you what is really meant by health, because I want you to understand the concept of health holistically. Now, if we open any medical textbook, we see that the universal definition of health that's mentioned is that health is a state of complete physical, mental, social and spiritual well-being, and not merely absence of disease or infirmity. But what do you see in the real world? You see that the focus of the health industry and the society as a whole is more towards illness than on health or wellness. It's so much so that one can't imagine seeing their family physician by taking a paid appointment, mind you, just to know a few tips about how to prevent an illness like diabetes or Alzheimer's or high blood pressure or cholesterol. Unlike before, obviously now the awareness has increased, but I remember as a child that whenever I used to go on street in the morning and I would see middle-aged people, taking a morning walk, and it would happen only after they underwent some angioplasty or they were newly diagnosed with an illness like diabetes or high blood pressure or anything. So that's how it was. So now, given the condition that the awareness about physical health is so meager, expecting awareness about mental health, social or spiritual health will mean that I am being oblivious to reality. But here, the story of emotional health is a little different, because emotional health has been segregated a long way from physical health. Things are a little different because there are tall barriers between the mental health professional and the society as a whole, which is in the form of stigma and taboo, which is so deeply ingrained in our society. So now, as per our textbook definition, expecting really that everybody should know about mental health, physical health, social, spiritual health, that's a really challenging task right now. So that's the reason I want the topic to be discussed a little more holistically. So what is really health? Let me give you an example. Once a middle-aged lady consulted me on the advice of her physician. She was suffering from diabetes and hypertension, that is high blood pressure. She was very meticulous with her diet and exercise schedule, and she was also taking the medicines properly as advised by her physician. Now, in spite of so, for the past around 2 months, somehow her sugars and her blood pressure were fluctuating on the higher sides. So her doctor tried to adjust her medicines and everything, but it was not really helping much. Finally, he considered the possibility of stress in her, being a very vigilant physician, and there lied the culprit. The lady was a widow and she was staying with her only son and daughter-in-law. The son was recently married. They were staying in a flat, and what was happening was that for the past few months, after any petty argument, her son would almost threaten her about sending her to an old age home in a neighboring state. What was the sad coincidence was that it happened soon after she made a will and she declared all her assets in the name of her son. So the very thought of, being sent to an old age home in a neighboring state, that really made her feel abandoned. And the thought kept lingering in her mind and it took away her sleep. She would get headache, palpitations, she wouldn't feel like eating, she would get outbursts of crying, and she would even feel very helpless, that is, nothing really good is going to happen to her, and she even thought that way. And in all this condition, she came to me. So I counseled her thoroughly and I started her on medications which gave her a sound sleep and also eased her from the disturbing thoughts. So later she came to me after a few follow-ups when she reported to me that she was feeling way calmer. But what was really the difference was that surprisingly her sugars as well as her blood pressure had come in a control which was never achieved before. That was something different. Besides that, of course, she had also worked on other things. That is, her nephew, who really used to like her, he decided that he should take her to his house. So she was temporarily staying at his house while she was simultaneously working on the relationship between her and her son and daughter in law. Also, she had made new friends with her neighbors, and she had also enrolled as a volunteer in a nearby orphanage. So, that, my friends, is called health in true sense. So, how physical really was her illness like hypertension and diabetes was? I mean, how did it got controlled like a magic once she got her stress related complaints sorted from a psychiatrist, besides, of course, following her physician's advice? How can a few feelings like anxiety, helplessness, or sadness, these feelings which can't be seen, smelled, heard, tasted, or touched, can express themselves so concretely in the form of physical symptoms like headache or palpitations, sleeplessness, or something like that? That itself suggests that a mind and the body are not two separate entities but they are one unit, and that if the mind is disturbed, the body as well will be disturbed, and likewise if the mind feels better, the body as well feel better. But what really is health? It's not really about physical and emotional health, because even animals, in if we see, have a mind and a body. So what really makes us different from the animals, and what really makes the definition wider for us? It is this, that we are the only creature who believes in society, culture, and moral values. So, if we see this lady's example, it was only after she started really working on positively on her relationships, like trying to work on the relationship between her son and daughter-in-law, and of course building new relationships like in the form of her neighbors and everything. That was something that comprised the social health, and of course she worked for an orphanage, and that too for people from whom she could expect nothing in return. That was purely out of her kindness and compassion. So that is what we call as the spiritual health. So in this lady's case, she was now physically, mentally, socially, as well as spiritually healthier than before, although she was of course fighting her illness, that is diabetes and hypertension. So, health really, in a nutshell, that is through this lady's example, that is the physical, mental, social, and spiritual health, putting it all together, this model of health is called as the biopsychosocial model of mind. In this biopsychosocial model of mind, the biology stands for what is one's immunity, the speed of metabolism, his genetic makeup, and how does one respond to any prescribed medicine. Psychology is about how was one brought up in childhood and how does one respond to any given life situation. And social context includes things like who are the people with whom the person goes around. It can be people which include his family, peer group, or neighbors, or anybody. And of course, like how does it influence, like if someone has a father, like any parent who drinks alcohol, he will be far more vulnerable to being suffering from alcoholism. Also, social context includes moral values, taboos, and norms. So, like in certain societies, alcoholism, now let's take the example again, it's considered as a taboo in certain communities, while in other communities, it is treated like a social drink. So, to put it together, health is a very comprehensive concept. That is, it is influenced by what you eat, to what you think, and to who you are with. In other words, it is about how the nature makes you, that is your genes, and how the world nurtures you. So, remember nature and nurture. Now, the reason I spoke about this was because our every single interaction with the universe is influenced by our nature and nurture. That is, if we look at health by this way, and if we have the knowledge of it, we will not only be able to understand health holistically and look at ourselves holistically, but also we will be able to look at others holistically. And of course, the knowledge of this will help us address all our health related concern, that is health in its true sense, little better by seeking timely professional help, that is addressing all the physical, emotional, social and spiritual concerns. And most importantly, it will obviously help us set holistic goals that will help us make the best out of our life. I'll be discussing more about this in my subsequent videos. But till then, please stay tuned, and if you have liked this video, please do not forget to share, comment and subscribe to my channel, The Goa Therapy.